welcome to the STL Hat Trick St. Louis Cardinals Podcast. This is episode 2. I am with my partners Eric Neff and Brian Swope, just like episode 1. Hopefully we've ironed out a little bit of the kinks from the last time. You see I'm in a little bit of a different venue than last. You got my man cave going on with the Star Wars and the Marvel behind me. But we're going to talk a little bit about the opening 6 games, talk a little bit about the home opener tomorrow night, what we've seen, what will we want to see better in a little bit. So be prepared for some hot takes and some things that you agree with, may not agree with, but we're going to bring it to you, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Eric, Brian, where can we find you guys on the web?
I'm Eric Neff. You can find me at EricNeff86, Eric the Semi-Great on Twitter. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just find me on Twitter. And of course at STL Hat Trick, you know.
I'm Brian Swope. You can find me at Papa Swope on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. So you can find me there or writing on Hat Tricks. So look me up, give me a follow. I'd love to communicate with you and talk some Cardinals baseball. Okay, great. So first off, guys, let's talk the opening 6 games. They're 3-3. We've seen a mix of good. We've seen a mix of bad. Obviously, the first 2 games of the season were a little bit of a letdown. Last night was really, gut-wrenching and a lot of heartache, as we thought that with a 4-0 lead with the Cardinals bullpen, we had things nailed down. But what are your guys' observations throughout the first 6 games?
Well, to get from the start, I kind of anticipated a rough series versus the Mets. Honestly, I was optimistic going in, but you're coming into Thor and DeGrom right off the bat, and a lot of new guys in the lineup, a lot of new coaches in the dugout. Away from St. Louis, I thought maybe we might get a bit of a slow start, and that's kind of what we saw. I mean, Thor, he dominated that game. He's outside of the Cardinals organization, probably my favorite pitcher right now in the major leagues. I love his stuff. He's a lot of fun to watch. But like you said, there've been a lot of great things since then I've seen too. I love not getting swept in New York. Taking that 3rd game to me was important. Last night, gut-wrenching. And I know there have been a lot of complaints about last night late, which I'm sure we'll get into later. And then tonight was a lot of fun, though I feel like it could have been just a tad funner if we hadn't got Matheny in the 9th by another double switch. Double play ball ends the game, and Carlos complete game shutout. But you know that's it happens. But I'll tell you, I'm really happy baseball's back, man. I'm just happy that it's back and we're watching baseball. So.
Yeah, I think it was great. I mean, of course, you're talking about a team that's starting 3-3, but you know, obviously, this is very easily a team that could have won 2 of those games that we lost. I think about the game against Thor. I mean, you're talking about the opening day game. Anytime you score 4 runs against him, I mean that's a game you should win. And obviously, Carlos just didn't have his stuff working that day. I mean, he just struggled from the get-go, walked too many guys. And it was just another one of those things where, the inconsistency that we saw from him last year and kind of that's been, the big bugaboo about Carlos is what we saw again on opening day. But then again tonight, I mean, erases those doubts. So that's a game we should have won last night. I mean, obviously, you go in with a 4-0 lead, your bullpen comes in. That's a game you should win. I don't understand the double switch there either. I mean, you take our 3-hole hitter out, and comes down to, our only hope at the end turns out to be the guy you replaced him for in Greg Garcia, and then their 3-hole hitter goes and hits the game-winning hit. I mean, managerial decisions, I think it's again going to come down to, has Matheny learned from his mistakes? Is he going to grow? Is he going to evolve as a manager? if he can't do that, I think we're going to be looking at a 500 ball club. But if he can, and obviously there's bullpen help coming, but if he can avoid those mistakes and really grow as a manager, I think we're looking at a really good baseball team that's going to make a lot of noise. But again, Matheny's got to get out of his own head. He's got to get out of his own way. And that's kind of my takeaway from that.
To add to last night, information that I didn't have until after the game, but Matheny had to have in the dugout is that Ryan Braun was 3 for 3 with 2 home runs off of Leon going into that at bat. That is crazy. I mean, I didn't know that, and I was all for. I wanted Leon in the 9th to start the season. I thought he'd make a great closer before we went and did the Holland deal, but I didn't have the information that he was, 0 for 3 against Braun in his career, and now 0 for 4 with 3 home runs. Ouch.
Yeah, and I know, Steven, you're kind of of the line of thinking that there wasn't really a lot that you could have done differently with the bullpen in that situation. But still, I think anytime you're going to throw your closer out there for 2 innings, you're going to ask for trouble. It's the way that it is. And again, that one, I don't really know what you do differently there. But anytime we've got to throw our closer out for 2 innings, I think we're just asking to get hurt.
Absolutely. I kind of agree with you. The more and more I think about it, Leon did what you ask a closer to do. He got 3 outs. He got 4 outs, did he not? Yeah. We were down to the last out. Yeah. So he got 4 outs last night. He did what you needed him to do. Got a little Danny Mac jinx there because Danny Mac was like, oh, Christian Yelich has not hit his first home run yet. And then boom, he hits his first home run, and then Braun hits a home run, and then game over. 3 against Braun, absolutely. Man, you got to have somebody warming up in case Braun comes up. If you know that as the manager, yeah, 3 for 3. The sample size is kind of small.
Yeah, it's small. Yeah,
but you have to take that into effect that this guy's seen him and he's done really well against him. You got to take that into effect as a manager and have somebody warm. You got to have Myers up. You got to have Tui, whoever it is in that moment. You got to have somebody ready to go.
Right.
Really,
I'll say it. Bud Norris. You got to have Bud Norris.
Yeah, Bud's been pretty good.
He's been good.
Yeah, he's been great. And again, that's what we're talking about with Matheny growing as a manager and evolving a little bit. We saw that time and again last season, where you've got a Rosenthal up or O up, and you see them getting in trouble and consistently being in trouble, and he never had anybody warming up just in case they got in trouble. There comes a time where you can have confidence in your guys while still having a backup plan and being prepared for if they're going to fail. So, and I think he's just, to a fault, Matheny is a loyal guy, but that's what kills us when you're so trusting in a guy that you want to build his confidence up so much. But if he doesn't have it, or if he gets into a situation like Leon got into where you're looking at a guy who's, 3 for 3 against you, have somebody ready. That's just common sense to me.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. That's really one of the only things I could say that I would have done differently is I would have had somebody up. And it's hard to say, there's not really a point to where you really want to, it's really tough to really kind of second guess. And yeah, hindsight is 20/20. But I guess, yeah, you had to have somebody up, just to make sure in case something happens. But, on the other side of the argument, you could argue in favor of what Matheny did and why have somebody warming up if you don't expect trouble. You expect Leon to get through the 5 outs. In that respect, why burn a guy by getting him warmed up and not using him? They're all the rage of keeping, helping pitchers stay injury-free throughout the season. And we have, Matheny warming a guy up and then not using him. That's kind of one of the things that's out there about, not having a guy get injured is to not warm him up when he's not necessary. The only thing I really could say that I would have necessarily potentially done different, this is all hindsight, is maybe not use Tyler Lyons in a situation where, he he struggles sometimes against those lefties, which is odd. And so I maybe would have used him in the role that they used Sheriff earlier in the game, and maybe saved Sheriff, who has a little bit more velocity on his fastball than Lyons. Maybe use him for a moment like that. It just struggled because it's the ballpark that they're in. It's a tough park to pitch in. It is monstrous hitters ballpark. And that's the only thing I would have done necessarily differently. As you might want a guy with a little bit more zip on the fastball in that ballpark, is what we kind of saw from Chacin tonight. Is that Chacin kind of got beat up a little bit because of the low end fastball.
Right.
But we really don't know what we could have done differently in that situation, as we're not big league managers. I criticize Matheny all the time. But to be all honest with you guys, there's not really a whole lot to be done differently, and we're really much blame that can be put on the shoulders of Matheny last night.
Yeah, and at the same time, Leon's got to execute his pitches. I mean, it does come down to that too. The player's got to own some of that.
Yeah, he threw a couple of hitters there.
From Matheny is that he did own up to the fact that he should not have done the two double switches. So he did own up to that a little bit. So that was something that maybe we're in the process of growing here. Like we talked about the last time we got together, guys, I really, 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 really hope that Maddox has more control over that bullpen than Matheny does.
Right.
I really tonight, honestly, guys, I'm a huge Carlos Martinez fan, as you guys saw in the article I wrote earlier in the week. Big time fan of his, always have been. Ever since the Cardinals signed him, I've been watching him and been a fan of his, but I would not have put him out there for the ninth inning. I know the complete game shutout is sexy, it's awesome, it's great for his stats, and that's Matheny. He's a I want my guy to have the stats kind of guy, but not in April, not the second start of the season do I want him going over 104 pitches.
He was fine.
Mike Myers, you've got Tuivalala who went in. You got these guys who are fresh in the bullpen. Use them. You got a day off coming on Friday. They're gonna rest. You not use them tomorrow night. They're gonna have Friday to rest. You got Hicks available tomorrow now that he's not pitched tonight. So if I'm the manager, I'm not putting Carlos out there. Not in April. If it's May and he's 4 or 5 starts deep into his season, absolutely, I'm giving Carlos the ball and saying, go get your complete game shutout. But not in April.
I liked it. He's only 26 years old. He throws a baseball for a living. I climb towers for a living. That's much harder. I'm fine. I still. It seems harder. I. Maybe not 114 times in a day. I couldn't climb a tower, but
the thing is that you have to understand is that Carlos has had shoulder issues before.
Yeah.
He has not had Tommy John yet. Not to say that every pitcher is going to have Tommy John, but as many pitches and innings that we can save on that elbow, the better. Because I don't want to lose that man for an entire season, because he is electric and he's fun to watch. And that's what we got tonight. We got the good Carlos Martinez. The first game of the season, we had the okay, not really commanding Carlos Martinez. The Carlos Martinez that wanted to paint the corners and to play the pretty game as opposed to throwing strikes and getting hitters out. And to go to kind of segue a little bit, I wrote that piece earlier in the week on Carlos Martinez because I'm absolutely sick of seeing the Twitter comments, the Facebook comments on Carlos Martinez being not focused. He's immature. He's this. He's not an ace. He's all of these things that these people are saying. He's this team's best pitcher. He's been this team's best pitcher since he stepped on the mound as a starter. And the stats show it. There's maybe one starter he's close to him in a couple of the stats, and it's Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn's not here anymore, and Lance Lynn's not the pitcher that he was in the first part of the numbers that I tracked, basically from 2015 to today, pitchers with 500 innings pitched or more. So you're guys who have been run out there as the number one starter over the past 3 years or so. So my data showed that Carlos Martinez has been the best pitcher, one of the top 20 pitchers in the league. So he's the ace by the fact that there's no other pitcher on this team better than him. He's the ace because he's within the top 20 in the league. When you're within the top 20 in the league, you're doing something. And even in some statistics, he ranks in the top 10, top 5. So, he is the team's ace. It's nothing about his immaturity. There's nothing about his focus. He has to get out there and he just has to throw strikes. Honestly, I think that is his problem. He has times where he wants to be a strikeout pitcher and he wants to go out there and get the called strike on the corner of the corner of the corner. And his stuff just moves so much. And he's probably, aside from Alex Reyes, he's got the most electric stuff on the roster. And it's stuff that he has to control a little bit better than than average pitchers. I liken it to Jaime Garcia. Jaime Garcia was pretty much a not necessarily his electric fastball, but his stuff moved a lot. Yadier Molina has been on record to saying that at the point in time when Jaime Garcia was in the rotation, that he had the best stuff of any pitcher in the rotation.
Yep.
And
his curveball was always fantastic.
And Jaime had a hard time throwing strikes because his stuff moved so much. And obviously, he had other issues with command and control and whatnot. But I kind of compare the two in that, like, Carlos is obviously a way better pitcher, but we have the kind of the comparison is the Carlos wants to paint the corners, I think, a little bit more, as opposed to, maybe throwing strikes and trying to get the ground ball, which he's actually really good at. I didn't realize how good he is as a ground ball pitcher. Because you think of him as a strikeout pitcher. He's actually he's got the second highest ground ball rate out of any starter over the last 5 years, 3 years. 3 or 4 years. So, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. There's only one other pitcher who has a higher ground ball pitcher than he does. So that's something what are you guys' thoughts on Carlos? I'm sitting here dominating the conversation because I'm obviously a noted Carlos Martinez fanatic. But what are your guys' thoughts on Carlos?
I've got to agree with you, to be honest. We're talking about a guy who, easily is one of the, top 20 pitchers. I would even argue to say he's in the top 10. He's just, I don't get the immaturity stuff. I understand, people they see him and they see his behavior and they think, oh, well, he's just an immature kid. No, the dude is passionate about what he does. He goes out there and with the stuff that he has, he expects to win. He expects to be the best pitcher in the game every time he toes the rubber. Okay. And that's what you want from your ace. You want that kind of guy. You want that kind of fire. And I can't remember who wrote it or where I read it, but I read a piece, a couple weeks back that was kind of comparing him to Chris Carpenter. Carpenter used to yell into his glove on the mound. The guy was just, fiery and raring to go every time. And nobody talked about Chris Carpenter being immature or being a head case. He was passionate, and he had that fire, that competitive edge to win. I think it's the same thing with Carlos. And I think the reason that Carlos gets as bad a rap as he does is because of the inconsistency. And I'm thinking if we're talking guy goes and, pitches to like a 2.84 ERA and, like a 1.05 whip, we're not talking anything about his immaturity at all, but because he's got, struggled a little bit with that location and, walks a little too many guys here and there, he gets that immaturity thing because they think, oh, well, he's just too emotional. He can't handle himself. No, he's not emotional. The guy expects to win. That's the deal. His stuff is so good. He should be winning. And when he doesn't get those, called strikes, maybe that some other guys are getting, and I got to be honest. I really question the officiating or the umpiring in some of those games, because those strike zones were all over the place in a lot of those games. And so I think, when you're a pitcher of Carlos's caliber and you're trying your hardest to hit the spots and stuff that sometimes maybe should be called a strike and isn't, yeah, you're going to get fired up. You're going to get frustrated because, he's given it everything that he has.
Right.
This is a guy who puts everything that he has into every single start. Sometimes the results are amazing, like we saw tonight. Sometimes it's like opening day, and it just, for whatever reason, doesn't come together. But, the guy's not immature. He just loves what he does, and he's passionate about it. And, I'm not going to fault a guy for that. Not at all.
Yeah, I've never understood the Carlos Martinez hate at all. You won't get any argument here for me. He's my favorite player on the team. I've loved him for a couple of years. His stuff is amazing. Like Brian just said, with the attitude and the immaturity, and that's how I like my ball players. I like my players a little bit cocky. Even if you want to be Tommy Pham level cocky, that's cool. I'm fine with that. I like them a little cocky. Confidence used to be a good thing in sports. It's crazy. It comes a lot from, I know, an older crowd. For instance, my stepdad, he used to, like last season, I heard a couple times, I wish he'd just quit messing with his hair, or like something like that. And I'm like, we just leave him alone, man. You're not gonna change, the older crowd like that. But I think a lot of it comes from that type of people. And also something you just said, Brian, the strike zone this season. Apparently, they taught every umpire a different strike zone completely.
Yeah.
It's highlighted in Luke Weaver's appearance, especially. Luke Weaver got, I think, screwed out of an inning or possibly two. I think I'd say 20 to 25 pitches. I think he really got screwed out of in that start. Just his pitch count was so inflated, and I saw 2 to 3 strikeout pitches that went for ball 3 or ball 4, ball 2. That was horrible. Of course, I can't think of the ump's name right now, but every season I complain about him. I tweeted about him the other day, and I still can't think of his name. But yeah,
was that the game CB Buckner did?
There you go. It was Buckner.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that guy is the worst.
He's the worst. Every season that he has 2 to 3 of these, and I'm like, oh man, can he just be at third base again today, please? Do we have to rotate every day? Jeez. But that was horrible.
It seemed like his strike zone was moving with every pitch. Like there's this imaginary box. If it's in it, it's a strike. If it's not, then it's a ball. Yeah. But his imaginary box was moving with every pitch. And so it's like, how are you supposed to know, exactly where to throw the ball if the guy is calling? Like, I can't tell you how many times he called and there's that start in particular. I saw him call a ball on a pitch that was clearly in the zone. And it was like 2 or 3 pitches later, it was a called third strike, and the ball was out of the zone low. And it's like, why didn't you give him that strike 3 pitches ago?
Hey, this could have been over. I noticed it again. I forget who the ump was in this game too. In the Michaelis start, I thought which by the way, I thought he looked great, by the way. But
yes, he did.
They were not giving him the inside corner to lefties at all. And he was nailing it. And I know when you miss the mitt by a few inches, a lot of times they're looking at catcher setups, and that can mess with an umpire, which is why it should all be computerized. Also a different conversation. But it should be. It's ridiculous. But they've got to nail down the strike zone. I do love that Fox Sports Midwest has added the live strike zone this season. If you guys have noticed, the first inning they won't have the box, and then they'll adjust the strike zone with info from the umpire, of course, height of the batter. It's pretty cool. It's a lot better than it used to be on Fox Track, so it's accurate.
Okay. You guys mentioned something else I want to bring up. The Tommy Pham situation. We had a from Sports Illustrated yesterday that was shared about Tommy Pham. Very interesting indeed.
I
Here's some thoughts.
Not safe for work.
I want to tee it up to you guys and let you guys talk about it.
I loved it. I read the story almost as soon as it came out, and to be honest, this guy, he is something else. I mean, and I say that in the most respectful way that I can, because I think that Tommy Pham is just an amazing athlete and an amazing baseball player. We talked about him in the last podcast too, and one of the things I said is, here's a guy who always tries to get better, who's looking for the little things, just to get an edge and to improve his game and to get better. And I think what we saw an insight into Tommy Pham that, and maybe even an insight into the Cardinals front office that maybe we didn't see or didn't know about as fans before. Because when I'm reading this article, I'm thinking, man, what more did this guy have to do to get called up? Why are we sticking with guys, like Grichuk, who are continuing to struggle? For 2 years, this guy was up struggling, and here we have Pham, who was putting up these monster numbers in AAA, and he's not getting the call up. And obviously, I think some of it's got to come down to the injuries that he had. And that's understandable, but still, Tommy Pham was, just by the numbers, was the best player in the minor leagues for the Cardinals for a few years, and didn't get a real shot. And so I got to wonder, what was it? What did he do? What did he say that got him in the doghouse that made him skipped over by these other guys who are actually no longer with the team? Because you look at Grichuk, Piscotty, Sierra, all promoted ahead of Pham. And guess what? He's still with the team. He's the starting, everyday center fielder. He's killing it right now. And these other guys are gone. So what took them so long to see what the rest of us are seeing in him right now?
I have this thing, I know some players come out of nowhere, and that happens, but I believe it was 2015 we brought Pham up, and it was a small sample size. I think it was 2015, but his WAR was off the charts. He put up good numbers while he was here. I can't remember if he got hurt or we sent him back down. I don't recall the exact situation, but his numbers were really good in a small sample size. He was never vaunted as this Chris Bryant or Bryce Harper, anybody like that. Now, Alex Reyes, a vaunted prospect, came up, tiny sample size, puts up monster numbers. We DL him. No one expects him to go back to AAA for this season. Does anybody expect him to finish that second half of the season anywhere other than St. Louis? No, we don't.
No.
But when Pham came back from injury, we made him sing for his supper multiple times, which I think is crazy. And maybe, like you said, there's something more to that. He rubs people the wrong way. Even race has been suggested, which, could be the case. But I don't understand it with Pham. I love the guy. I love the article. I understand a lot of people didn't like the vulgarity and everything. I'm a fairly vulgar guy most of the time, so it didn't really bother me a whole lot. I do understand from that perspective why, you wish you could tone it down. But people also took a lot of the things he said extremely literal. Like, it seemed that I understood what he was saying, and some people didn't understand what he was getting at. Like, they're like, oh, he has no right to – Oscar Taveras' name should not be in his mouth and this and that. He was not in no way downing Oscar or anyone else. He wasn't downing our outfielders. He stated facts. We were hitting 200 going into the third week last year. That's a fact. No one can dispute that. So, I really liked it. I like Tommy a lot. I don't know what's been the holdup over the years, but I hope he has a monster season. And from what I've seen so far, like, he seems to be right now really. I thought he struggled the first few games seeing the ball, I think, and now it seems like he's locked in again. He's starting to see the ball well again, I think.
Yeah. Good stuff. I read the article yesterday, and at first I was like, "Wow, like, man, this is incredible." Like this guy has some opinions, and he's really putting it out there. And then power to him, more power to him. I was a huge Tommy Pham fan during 2015. Mike Matheny was hell bent on getting Matt Holliday and John Jay right at the end of the season in 2015, and Pham was not getting his due, and it frustrated me to no ends. Here we are in the midst of a 100-win season, and he's throwing out John Jay in center field. My wife's going to listen to this, and she's going to hate that I'm ruining the name of John Jay. But Tommy Pham had no business being on the bench. I believe there was a game in Milwaukee during that season where he just busted it the entire series. He had a 2-homer game, smacked a pitch off the pitcher, I do believe, and it was just an incredible series for the guy. And I think it was like a game later, he was on the bench, and it was like, what's going on here? Like, this guy's clearly hot right now. Why is he on the bench? Right. Why is John getting a chance to get right when you've got this guy who's hitting the ball pretty well? If he's playing good defense, hitting the ball well, you don't need John Jay to get right. And then, obviously he got a chance to play a little bit in the playoffs, and did well. He had a home run in the playoffs. So, going into 2016, you kind of thought Tommy Pham was going to, budge his way onto the club. And then, he struggled out of spring training, got hurt. It was a quad injury, I do believe. And hit the DL, came up, and then he struggled horribly with striking out. Like, the strikeout rate, I believe, was around 30-35%, I do believe, at that point in time. 2016 really for Tommy Pham was a lost year.
Yes.
And I think everybody's opinion was down on him at that point. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, and trust me, if 2016 minor league numbers wise was good for him, I don't have the data in front of me. But I do know, and I've been a big fan of his, that he is not a flash in the pan. I did the numbers, and I, put things together, and I've looked at things trying to see, some consistencies with this and how he's done things. And I truly believe that Tommy Pham is who we think he is. He is an elite talent that unfortunately has been hampered by injuries most of his career. And, I want to say I'm on his side, but I'm not on his side at the same time. I'm always, a belief of you don't bite the hand that feeds you, in a way. And yes,
but in this case, the hand wasn't even feeding him.
Right. Absolutely.
It was like teasing him with food, like just, and then taking it back, and then finally it threw it to him. Yeah, that's,
Absolutely, yeah. And I understand Tommy Pham deserves to be paid, and the minor league structure of paying is absolutely horrific at this time. That needs to be fixed.
Yes.
But as far as I'm not necessarily talking about pay here, but I'm talking about just necessarily of being where he is. Absolutely, I understand the frustration when you've got Mag Sierra getting called up before him last year, and a guy from Single A, but in that regard, the Cardinals were trying to figure out what they had out of Mag Sierra and get him on the 40-man before another club had an opportunity to take a shot at him. And so I understand that move from that standpoint. Absolutely would have loved to have had Tommy Pham on the roster when Mike Matheny's trying to slug out Matt Adams in left field. How does Tommy Pham not make the roster when you've got Matt Adams playing left field? Absolutely agree from that standpoint that he should have been on the roster at that point. When you're throwing Matt Adams out in left field to give him, keep his bat in the lineup, no, No, you need to get somebody who can play the outfield. Defense was a huge problem for this club last year, and they had made this focus on how defense was going to be better last year, and it was horrific.
I was hoping Fam would go harder on that point, on the Matt Adams point, because that was one of the worst months of my life. I know. Jeez. I mean, come on.
It was ridiculous. I mean, Steven, you're absolutely right. I mean, why? Why are you going to emphasize defense, and then you've got a first baseman who can barely move around out there playing left field? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense whatsoever. And so I understand Fam's absolutely. I understand it where he's coming from. I would be slighted as well if I was in his position. I wouldn't necessarily go say something to the media regarding it. But he's a guy who's passionate, and I love it. Just like the Carlos Martinez talk that we had earlier, he's passionate. He believes in himself, and I absolutely love that out of guys. And I love the quote that they were talking about. I was listening to the radio this afternoon. They were talking about the thing where he said he's all in. He's committed for the long haul. Baseball, he's all in. And so
I love that. That's the kind of baseball players that this organization has always hunted for. And though he's not the cliche version of all in that a lot of people are. When you hear all in from Tommy, you know what that means from this guy.
Right.
It means he is all in.
Yeah, and I love it. And you know what? God willing, I hope that man has a fantastic season, and I hope that the Cardinals, pay him a little bit more in the offseason because he deserves it after what he's done, what he's contributed to the ball club, and the man has been through a ton of struggles and injuries throughout his career in the minors. And so I absolutely hope that he gets his due and that he has a strong season this season. And it's interesting the way things are panning out for the club. And this is probably a discussion for another time. But, the way things are panning out in the minor leagues, I would not be shocked in the slightest if the club decides not to pursue an extension for Ozuna next year. But that's a discussion for another day. But absolutely love the passion from Tommy Pham, and I expect to have him to have a fantastic season this season. Moving on.
He may not. Can I say this real quick, Steven? He may not listen to this, but if he does, Tommy Pham, you are the best player on this ball club, and don't let anybody else tell you otherwise.
Absolutely right.
He already knows that.
So moving on, we want to talk a little bit about opening day tomorrow for the Cardinals, home opener. Adam Wainwright on the mound. Jack Flaherty, 9 strikeouts last night through 5. It sucks that he's going down, but you know what? I'm a little confused at the outrage. Because we all knew this was going to happen. Jack Flaherty was up for 1 start, and he was going to get that 1 start and have an opportunity to show us what he's got, and then go back down to AAA to get some innings and continue to refine his craft and get better. So Adam Wainwright is back in the rotation after a decent, strong spring starts. Spring, we talked, you hold some weight in it, but not a whole lot. We'll see how things go. But the guy's making $19.5 million this year. The Cardinals aren't going to just say, oh, well, Jack Flaherty's here, so your $19.5 million, we're going to give it to you. You go play for another club. That's not going to happen. This is a business. Like the club's not going to just say, oh, well, let's just go ahead and say goodbye to him because we have somebody else here. It's like Matt Holliday at the end of his career with the Cardinals. They saw that he was on the down end of his career, but they still knew that he had to have an opportunity to be on the club, and they did that. Obviously, struggled with injuries towards the latter half of the year, and so they decided to go their separate ways at the end of the season, which I'm 100% sure the Cardinals will do at the end of this season with Wainwright. But you don't just say, see you later, go pitch for another team. without giving him a shot in the rotation this year. The guy's worked to refine his craft. He's worked to get better in the off season, with the promise and assurance that he'll have a spot in the rotation and a chance to do better. Absolutely. Last year sucked for Wainwright. The year before was not good for Wainwright either. It's not the Wainwright we expect, but you got to give him a shot to at least, be, I guess, replacement level or above replacement level for him, for the Cardinals this year. You can't just, I'd say it's bad. It's a bad look for the team, veteran wise, if you're trying to bring in a veteran pitcher or a veteran player in the future. If you just ship him off for a young kid, for the next shiny new young prospect, it's just not the way big league clubs operate. What are your guys' thoughts?
I think also that Waino has. I mean, he's earned the start tomorrow. I think he knows just as well as we do. This is probably the last opening day he sees at Busch Stadium. I think it probably will be. I don't know if he'll go play somewhere else or what he'll do, if he'll decide to hang him up. I would love to see him take me for one last ride. I knew Flaherty was going back down. Yes, it was disappointing for a lot of people. I actually had a buddy of mine when Waino went down, and he had asked me, how many starts do you think he'll miss? And I said 2 to 3. And he sent me back, what if Flaherty goes 3-0 with a 1.48 ERA or something like that? And he goes back to Memphis. I mean, that was the plan. This is not the last time you'll see Flaherty this year. Waino and Walker are not going to stay healthy all year. You can already Walker's mechanics just don't even look right. He just didn't even look right on the mound the other day. I didn't think it just didn't look right. And I want Waino to give us that, like I said the other day, that end of the career, like Chris Carpenter, at the end of his career, he gave us that one last ride. I would love for Waino to come back and do the same thing this year, and he's earned the opportunity to do so. We will see Flaherty in the starting rotation, I think, this year. I think sooner rather than later. I think about it all the time. I try not to let myself get too far ahead in the future. I just keep thinking about this rotation that goes Carlos Martinez, Alex Reyes, Luke Weaver, Jack Flaherty, insert anybody's name here. And man, that is exciting stuff in our future right there for a 1 through 4. That is a crazy 1 through 4 for our future. And I think that Flaherty needs that time down to get going.
Yeah, I think obviously what Waino means to this organization is more than just a rotation filler. I mean, this guy, like you said, Eric, I mean, he has earned everything to this point. I mean, what more can you ask a guy to do for an organization? I mean, he pitched us into the World Series in 2006. 2011 has Tommy John surgery and sits on the bench all season and watches this team win the World Series again while he's rehabbing and trying to get better, and then goes on an absolutely dominant run from like 2012, 2014, 15, until the injuries start to pile up again. And, you talk about like what this guy has meant to this organization, and he should already have 2 Cy Youngs. And I'm just going to put that out there. Like, he should already have 2 Cy Youngs. In my mind, this guy is a Hall of Fame caliber pitcher. If he doesn't have the injuries that he had, I mean, his name belongs in that conversation. And so to me, I think that Waino has earned the right to start opening day if he's healthy. And if he feels like he's good, and, you got to trust that. I mean, the guy's been in the league long enough that he knows his body better than we do. And if he feels like he's ready to go, then he's ready to go. And what he means to this rotation is so much more than just a guy who can go out there and throw every 5th day. I mean, Luke Weaver doesn't have the success Luke Weaver has if Waino doesn't show him how to do his curveball. Waka doesn't have the success that he has if Waino doesn't show him how to throw a cutter. I mean, you're talking about a guy who is a leader in the clubhouse, and the guys still listen to him. I mean, he's like another Molina in the clubhouse when you're talking about the guys who, when they walk in, automatically have that respect from the younger players. Wayno is that guy. And I don't think that you can replace him with a Jack Flaherty. I mean, Flaherty was phenomenal. I don't want to take anything away from Flaherty. If anything, I feel horrible for Flaherty because he got his first major league win snatched out from under him by the bullpen. I mean, they totally screwed the pooch on that one. But when it comes down to it, man, Wayno is every bit the face of this team that Molina is. And I already wrote a piece that this offseason that says I think we're going to see a vintage Wayno this year, and I really think that he's going to do well. But I mean, I don't get the let's rush the young kid in and let him play ahead of a guy like Wainwright, who's meant so much to this team, so much to this organization, and to the city. I mean, who in the city of St. Louis doesn't know Adam Wainwright's name? And who do you ask other than like the most avid fan that knows Jack Flaherty's name? Not very many people, but those of us who follow the team and who love the team, yeah, we know Flaherty's name, and he's exciting, and especially after what he did, last night. But at the same time, like you can't take this away from Wayno. He's given too much for too long to this team, and he deserves it. Absolutely.
And I think he's going to pitch well, by the way, tomorrow. I do. I'm going to say allows under 3 runs for opening day. Just from what I saw in spring training, he looked before the hamstring issue. He looked really good, and I think he does well tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
how awesome would it be if he went out and pitched a perfect game? Wouldn't that be great?
Oh my goodness! Or just I'd go like a 3-hitter through 8. And I'd be ecstatic for that, That'd be good enough for me. That'd be amazing.
I mean, he did have some moments last year where he was good. I mean, it wasn't vintage Wainwright, but he got outs and avoided big innings and whatnot. He was in a serviceable 3 to 5 pitcher at times last year. Obviously the final numbers didn't turn out great for him, but he did have a stretch or two where he was decent. And I would say in a sense, you don't invite the guy back. You don't have him pitch through spring training and go out there and get a hamstring injury and then say, you know what, yeah, we rethought things. The young kid did well his last outing, so we're going to go ahead and stick with the young kid. You go home or go pitch somewhere else or go pitch in the bullpen. You just so much of running a major league team is more than just playing the hot hand. You just can't just ignore the intangibles of things. And at this point in time, in my opinion, the way things are with the organization and the supposed image of the organization on the decline amongst major league players, maybe you don't make something like that happen so that you can actually have a little bit more of a likable image among major leaguers who are looking to sign long-term contracts when they are in their say 28 to 31 seasons. To say because they know at the back end of their contract that they're not going to be as well as they are at the front end, and so they know that the time is going to come where the organization has to make a decision on them, and I'm assuming that a major leaguer is not going to want to say, okay, well, if I get to the back end of the contract, they're just going to go ahead and say sayonara and not give me an opportunity, even if I'm at least decent. Potentially they're not going to give me an opportunity. And I think of it that way. And I think also, Flaherty's going to get his opportunity. Absolutely going to get his opportunity. Somebody else is going to go down this season with an injury, whether it's, I don't want it to happen to Martinez, but whether it's Martinez, Waka, Wayno, Michaelis, Weaver, somebody's going to go down with an injury, or they're going to call him up to, cover innings or something of that nature, skip a start here or there for somebody else. Things are going to happen. He's going to get his opportunity. I want Alex Reyes to get an opportunity ahead of him to be a
Right.
fixture in the rotation as far as maybe after this year. But he's going to get his opportunity. And I get it. I get his frustration. But you know what? Adam Wainwright had that same frustration at the end of the 2004 season or 2005 season when, Tony La Russa said, "Sorry, kid, you didn't make the playoff roster. Go home."
Yep.
Adam Wainwright went through the same thing.
There's a lot of other players at Memphis right now that have. I mean, you got Brebbia and Gant that both did well here, and they're both down there honing their craft as well. I mean, it's a way of life in baseball, so I understand I think a little bit of his frustration last night after the game in that post-game interview when he said, "I have nothing to say," I think was the quote that I read.
Yeah.
I think that was a split 50-50, like, damn, I have to go back to Memphis. And why couldn't they just get 3 outs without giving up back-to-back home runs, Like, it's he just had to be thinking about all 12 outs after he left the game and going back to Memphis. And, I bet it was a rough night for him. I think, it's one of those things where I bet he woke up this morning and read his own quote like, I probably could have been a little more cordial to the media maybe. But you live, you learn. And, we'll see this kid sooner rather than later. I don't think Reyes ends up in the rotation till next year. I think if there's a start, I think the next starter up will be Flaherty, even if it's after Reyes is healthy. I do think Reyes is the more exciting of the two for sure, man. That's he's a lot of fun to watch pitch. I almost forget what it's like to watch Reyes pitch. It's been so long. I can't wait for him to come back. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And I think too, a guy like Flaherty, I mean, he's exciting and he's going to be fun and he's going to be fun to watch for a long time. But, guys got to pay their due and, he's still really young. And he had a great game, and tip your hat off to him and say, "Man, we can't wait to see you again." But right now is Adam's time, and let's roll with him.
Didn't Waino have one shutout last year? Or one complete game last year? I don't know if it was a shutout. Didn't he have one complete game last year? Sometimes I don't know. You never know about me. I'm looking that up very soon, but I'm pretty sure he had one complete game last year. And I remember this odd celebration with him and Yachty, and I was like, "Yeah, you did it one more time. Probably going to be the last, but I'm excited." I hope it's not. I sincerely do. And like your article recently said, Brian, I enjoyed it because I've been preaching about this Waino resurgence as well this offseason. Then again, I'm the guy that said Walker was going to have a good year, and his first start it really did look bad. He just didn't look right mechanically. He was missing spots. Velocity was down. Movement wasn't like it was. It seems like Walker's going to regress back to his 2016 health and inconsistency rather than the 2017 version, unfortunately.
In which
game shutout last year for Wainwright. He had a complete game shutout in 2016, but no complete game shutout last year.
Must have been the 16 I was thinking of.
Yeah, and I get where people are coming from. Look, Wainwright had an ERA of 4.62 in 2016, 5.11 in 2017. I mean, your opinion as a fan is you've seen everything you want to see out of him in, what is it, 325 innings or so.
Right.
You've seen what you're going to see out of Wainwright in a sense at that point. But I know that wins are so crucial when you're going up against the Cubs and the Brewers are good and, you're trying to make the playoffs again. I get that. I absolutely do get that. But you also have to understand that Wainwright is just got to have his due. It's just the way baseball works, unfortunately. You can't just make a rash decision and let a guy walk like that. I would love for the Cardinals to make a great decision on Wainwright. If for whatever reason he does not do well in, say, the first 3 to 5 starts, if he is just not what they want out of a rotation spot, absolutely make that decision, but not at the beginning of the year. Just not the decision to make at this point in time. And if you make that decision a few starts down the road, maybe you've saved some innings on Flaherty's arm by waiting and skipping a start here or there. But, we'll see. I'm hoping for good things. But you know what? If things don't work out, you know what? You gave the guy his shot, and that's the way you got to go. We'll digress on that. What do you guys think of the offense so far? It's tonight was an interesting night where you had kind of a good but not great. You had Yachty with a homer, and you had a double from Pham, and a couple well-placed singles here or there. But last night, boy, you got a homer from Dex, a homer from Pham, a homer from Ozuna, what I'm kind of calling Warriors 3 in that outfield. That was impressive. The offense really kind of came out of the shell in that game and in the game before with the young. Goodness gracious, this offense is really good, and I like what I see. But your opinion?
Well, I just want to say that one of these guys talked about DeYoung not regressing last week. I think it was me. But he's going to strike out 50 times this week now. I shouldn't have even said that. But I agree. It's been the most exciting brand of Cardinal baseball that I have watched in a while. I have really enjoyed watching this offense when it's clicked. Slow start, like we talked about earlier, that first couple of games. I wasn't worried, but I won't say I was bored because I was watching baseball. But I was like, what? I waited months for this. Like, I've been talking about it and I've been writing about it, and this is what I've been waiting for. And then once we started really clicking, I love the way we're producing runs, for one thing. It's not just home runs. We are hitting some home runs. I love that a little bit of everyone is sprinkling in some home runs, but I love that it's a leadoff walk from Dex or a leadoff double from Dex like tonight. And then ball flies to center field and Pham knocks him in. Pham's out at first, but we produced, or that's called producing runs, Mike Matheny. That's how you produce runs. And I can really already see the little bit of Oquendo and Willie McGee effect, the aggressive base running already that you're seeing from Pham and others. I mean, Jed Jerko stole a base the other day, guys. That was sweet. You're getting it from a little bit of everybody. It's been fun to watch. I think, like everybody, I keep waiting for Ozuna to just catch fire. His bat speed is the most impressive thing that maybe I've ever seen. He can let a 98-mile-an-hour fastball get in on his hands and barrel it, and I can't figure it out. It comes out of nowhere. That home run last night just jumped off the bat. That was awesome. But it's been a lot of fun to watch so far since we've got it clicking. I hope we keep it going. I wish we were 4-2 right now, or maybe 5-1. But I'll take 3-3 and take 2 out of 3 from the Brew Crew and move on to Arizona.
Yeah, I think it's exciting to watch, especially when you think about the fact that Ozuna, he's had an all right start to the season, but he really hasn't gotten going yet. And you think about the heart of your order, like, really hasn't put on a show yet. And what's going to happen when those guys really take off? I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, we're putting up runs left and right now. and it's coming from, the top of the order. I mean, Dex leading off the game. And I got to say, I got to shout out to Dex too, because, I mean, that was awesome. Pumping yourself up on Twitter. I will get a hit. I will get a hit. I will get a hit. And then what happens? He goes off, man. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, to see him lead off the game with the homer and then back to back from Pham. I mean, it was amazing. This is an exciting offense to watch. And, Eric, I'm with you. I think, man, if we want to throw out a hot take tonight, I'm going to say, I'm going to make another bold prediction. I already said last one that Pham goes for a 30-30 season. You know what? I'm going to say that DeYoung gets close to 40 homers this year. I think he's got the power to do it. I think we're very easily looking at a guy who's going to hit 35 to 40, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over it. I mean, it seems like every time his barrel hits the ball, that thing is flying. I mean, it just jumps off the bat with incredible ease. I mean, his swing, it just is so... I mean, he just looks, like you said last time, it just looks effortless every time he connects on that ball. And it's just, man, and to think that, that guy's batting, what, 7th for us?
Yeah, 7th.
I mean,
and at first I hated that, and I'm starting to like it, like the way it's set up. Like, I'm like, all right, I guess Yachty's going to get on base, and then Paulie D, okay, that works. Let's do that then.
Yeah, I mean, funny. If there's nothing else, that's one thing I guess that Matheny was really right about is, getting this lineup centered around OBP, and you get guys like DeYoung in there who can just launch the ball. It's working. I mean, it's through the first 6 games, it's working.
I saw something funny on Twitter. It was I can't remember who it was, but they said Paul DeYoung's going to break Barry Bonds' home run record, and the day he breaks the record, he's still going to be hitting behind Yadier Molina.
That's pretty good. And probably true.
They're both at 3 homers for the season. So,
What is Yachty doing? Yachty is, I mean, he's intentionally hitting. Like, he's swinging for the fences this year I've seen. So
part of that fly ball revolution, he has adopted a swing style that leans itself to producing more fly balls, and I know that he's got into the fly ball launch angle revolution. So that's kind of what we know of from Yachty. It's interesting though, Yadier Molina home runs.
Yeah, it is, and it's. I always find it interesting that Yachty is as great as he's been. His offensive numbers have seemingly gotten better as his career has progressed. His defense is on the decline, but his offense is somehow still, going the other way, which is nice. I would say since Brian did his little hot take with DeYoung, I'd say my hot take of the season from the first week is that either Dex, ordered that off the website, pretty excited about it, either Dex or Tommy Pham will lead the National League in runs scored this season. I'm not going to say which one. I won't narrow it all the way down. One or the other will lead the league in runs scored. That's my hot take for this week.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I think it's reasonable to expect that too. I mean, the way that this offense is clicking, I mean, goodness, this is a fun team to watch. I cannot remember the last time a Cardinals offense was this exciting, since Pujols. I mean, since the days of like Pujols, Roland, Edmonds. I mean, this is a fun team to watch.
It really is.
Yeah, it's been a fun season so far. Besides the first 2 games in New York, I'm hoping for another series win, if not a sweep of Arizona. I'll be honest, I haven't really caught up with Arizona how well they're doing this season so far.
Their pitching has been good. Their bullpen, Archie Bradley, has been a little off, but Corbin, Ray, and good outings. Corbin had a fantastic outing yesterday. He was lights out. His slider is almost unhittable right now for a lefty. I mean, just ridiculous.
But we should avoid.
Yeah, they got some guys on the DL too, though. I think I heard today that Jake Lamb just went on the DL. So that's one guy you won't have to worry about.
And they did DFA. They DFA'd the guy from Cuba. I saw that earlier in the week. They designate
Tomas.
Yep, there you go.
Tomas.
Yep.
I thought that was interesting.
He was pretty good just a couple of seasons ago. I mean, 2016, I think it was, he had a pretty decent season when he was healthy and playing. So that is crazy that they DFA'd him. I'd be surprised if he's not somewhere else extremely quickly.
Well, he's got a pretty high contract. So chances are he'll probably go down to the minors, I would assume. Because that's a really tough contract to chew.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's like the Red Sox did the same thing to Alan Craig a couple of years ago, and nobody wanted to take on that contract.
Somebody said the other day, I saw on Twitter, Alan Craig is playing baseball this year somewhere in the major leagues, and I cannot remember where I saw this the other day. He's playing, so I don't know if it's in the minors or the majors, but he is playing for an organization again. Apparently, he didn't play half of last season. I didn't even know this. We didn't touch on tonight, and I can't believe we didn't. That guy that was throwing like 1,000-mile-an-hour sinkers the other day, and then the day before that guy, that Hicks guy, he's pretty good. That was he's a pretty exciting part of the first week.
Yeah, he's definitely been an exciting part of the beginning of the season.
Alan Craig's with the Padres, by the way.
Padres, there you go.
Okay. It is going to be interesting. I'm just not. I really, really like the kid. I do. Just not sure he's going to stay with the club after Holland comes on. It's another thing we haven't talked about is Holland. I will say that pretty excited for him now that I see the Leon might have some struggles.
Right.
But, I'm a little concerned that when Holland comes up that he's the odd man out. I really hope not. But when you look at everything, the way it's set up, likely going to be the guy that goes down unless they send down Sheriff and wait till Cecil's available to have a second lefty. I'm a little apprehensive that he might be the guy to go down.
See, I've got this school of thought that I would rather, in the near future, they kind of plan for the future here. I'll be okay if Hicks goes down when Holland comes up, if it means that we'll eventually get Helsley out of the bullpen and Hicks into the rotation. For some reason, I would prefer Helsley just with his stuff. I like Helsley as a bullpen guy. I know he's been phenomenal as a starter in the minors, but I really like Helsley to come out of the bullpen in the near future for this club. And I know that Hicks could be Aroldis Chapman, but why can't he be Nolan Ryan? I want to see him. He's got a 100-mile-an-hour sinker. The only other guy that's got that vicious, I think, is Noah Syndergaard. And I mean, I'd really love to see if this guy can do that for 6 or 7 innings, every 5 days. That would just be wow,
Absolutely, but unfortunately for him, he's behind.
Yeah, he's unseasoned for sure.
Behind Flaherty, he's behind Reyes. For a rotation spot, you could technically say that he's behind Hudson as well. I don't foresee him having an option to come into a rotation in this club for the foreseeable future at this point, unless there's a rash of injuries, and we've got Reyes and Flaherty already in the rotation, and there's immediately a need right away, and they want to go ahead and just keep somebody who's already on the roster and throw them in the rotation. I just highly, highly, highly doubt that they're going to trust him for a start anytime soon.
Yeah, it's more a next season type of thing. Insert his name into the Reyes, Martinez, Weaver rotation once Waino and Waka, and if Michaelis is still here, then we're gonna start getting clogged up at starter here pretty quick anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's well, and that's kind of why they were okay with shooting off Alcantara and who's the other guy's name? I can't think of the guy they drafted out of North Carolina, I believe. I can't think of his name offhand.
Oh gosh, why can't I think of it?
Yeah, I can't think of the other guy.
I know who you're talking about. But I mean, thinking about that though, I mean, I love Jordan Hicks. His stuff is electric, but at the same time, he's like a lot of those guys that are, those high, really high velocity pitchers that he still has trouble locating. His control at times can be erratic, but I mean, when it's coming that fast and it moves like that, that plays a lot better out of the bullpen than it does out of the rotation. And so I think that's why it's a perfect spot for him right now. And maybe if he develops the control to go with that velocity, he plays better in the rotation. But right now, I think it's a perfect spot for him too. And he's only 21. I mean, this guy's 21 years old. Throwing triple digits in the majors, 3.1 innings so far. This season, he's only given up 1 hit, hasn't given up any runs, 3 strikeouts. I mean, what more can you ask from this guy? But yeah, the future for him is as bright as anybody else. So
that sinking pitch he's got actually registers on StatCast as a 2-seam fastball, and just drops 8 inches off the table and tails away at the end. So
it's ridiculous.
Nasty.
It is nasty. Filthy. It may be the best pitch in the majors right now. It is just absolutely ridiculous.
And then when he came back with that 84-mile-an-hour slider, like I literally probably fell off my couch at that point watching that game. I was like, no. And the batter had the same reaction I did. He just kind of, yep, I'm gonna go sit down, guys. See you later. I mean, he couldn't move. So it was.
Imagine tomorrow night, he'll probably be one of the first guys out of the bullpen.
I think so too.
As he's had it'll be 3 days, 2 days off.
Yep.
Yesterday and tonight, 2 days off. So 2 days off, and then an off day on Friday. He'll most likely.
And he's had low pitch counts, so he's good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, absolutely excellent conversation with you guys as always. Tomorrow night we got opening day in St. Louis. Almost thought about going down and going to the festivities down there, but with the construction and whatnot, things seem to be kind of crazy down there right now. So we're going to go ahead and opt out of that and just kind of watch from home. But absolutely ecstatic to see Busch Stadium full again, see the Clydesdales come down and all that. So definitely we'll be watching tomorrow night, enjoying all that. Hopefully with my son on my lap, enjoying, the festivities, second opening day technically for him. He was a couple months old the last time, but I'm real excited. One of the best things about being a dad is passing down my love for baseball to him.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely excited about tomorrow night, guys. Hopefully we can do this again next week. We will see all of you guys next week, hopefully, and give us a follow. Go ahead and subscribe. I didn't even mention we have a contest going on, guys. So
yes.
Those of you who are watching us on YouTube or listen to the podcast on iTunes, I want to reach out to you. Just go ahead and give us a follow on Twitter. Go ahead and give us a subscribe on YouTube. I wanted to let you guys know, because if you do so, once we get to 100 subscribers on YouTube, once we get to 1,000 followers on Twitter, we are going to run a contest where I am going to give away 2 tickets, a pair of tickets to a Cardinals game, an upcoming Cardinals game in the 2018 season. And no, I'm not going to give you terrace reserve seats. I'm going to give you decent seats. I'm not going to be cheap and go ahead and say, hey, I got these free tickets. In the nosebleed. I'll go sit somewhere nice. Most likely it'll be some good bleacher seats or something else in the outfield, or good seats, not nosebleeds, none of that. So you'll have good seats. So these are tickets that are going to be worth winning. So go ahead and get us a subscribe on YouTube here. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter. And once we get to 1,000 Twitter followers, 100 subscribers on YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and give those tickets away to a lucky follower. So, guys, absolutely appreciate you guys in every single way. You guys are going to help us grow from where we are to a much bigger channel, a much bigger audience. Guys, really appreciate you guys and really appreciate my cohorts here, Eric and Brian. We will go ahead and see you guys next week. Enjoy Cardinal Nation. Let's go get us some more W's.
Absolutely.